You're standing in line at Starbucks. It's 8:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. You're running late for work, and you're about to order the same thing you order every single morning. Grande latte. Maybe add a shot of espresso because you didn't sleep well. $5.37. You tap your card, grab your cup, and you're out the door. It feels like nothing, right? It's coffee. It's $5. You work hard. You deserve this one small luxury. But what if I told you that single coffee you just bought didn't actually cost you $5? What if the real cost was closer to 15 or 50? Or depending on how old you are right now, that coffee might have just cost you over $1,800. I know that sounds insane. Stick with me for the next 10 minutes because once you understand what I'm about to show you, you'll never look at a small purchase the same way again. David here, and today at David Capital, we're breaking down opportunity cost, the invisible wealth killer that nobody talks about. If you're someone who feels like you're making decent money but can't figure out where it all goes, or you're saving but it never seems to add up the way you thought it would, make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up if you find it helpful. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start with the obvious calculation, the one everyone does in their head to justify the purchase. $5 coffee. You buy it once. $5. Done. Easy. But here's the thing. You're not buying it once. Nobody buys a $5 coffee once. If you're the kind of person who buys coffee out, you're doing it regularly. Let's say you do it every workday, Monday through Friday. That's 5 times a week. $5 times 5 days is $25 a week. Okay, that's starting to feel like real money, but it's still not panic-inducing, right? It's the cost of a cheap dinner. Whatever. But now let's extend that out. $25 a week times 52 weeks in a year. That's $1,300 per year on coffee. $1,300 just on coffee per year. Now for a lot of people, that number makes them uncomfortable. But they rationalize it. It's only $5 a day. I can afford $5. And look, maybe you can. Maybe $1,300 a year genuinely doesn't impact your financial goals. But for most people, that's not true. According to a 2023 report from Bankrate, nearly 60% of Americans couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency expense with savings. You're spending more on coffee per year than you have in your emergency fund. But even that isn't the full picture, because we're still only looking at the explicit cost, the number that shows up on your bank statement. What we're ignoring is the implicit cost, and that's where this gets really expensive. Here's what most people don't understand about spending. Every dollar you spend is actually two costs. There's the dollar you spent, and then there's the dollar you didn't invest. That second cost is called opportunity cost, and it's the difference between being broke and being wealthy. Let me explain. When you spend $5 on coffee, that $5 is gone. You consumed it, you drank it, it's over. But if you hadn't bought that coffee, you could have invested that $5, and that $5 could have grown. Let's run the math. If instead of buying coffee, you invested that $5 every single workday into a basic index fund, something boring like the S&P 500, what happens? The stock market historically returns about 10% per year on average. Some years more, some years less, but over long periods, it's a pretty reliable number. So if you invest $300 per year, that's about $180 per month. And you do that consistently, here's what happens. After 1 year, you'd have about $1,400. Not that exciting. You invested $1,300 and it grew a little bit. Cool. But after 5 years, you don't just have 5 times $1,300. You have over $8,000. The compounding is starting to kick in. After 10 years, you'd have over $22,000. After 20 years, you'd have over $75,000. And if you're in your 20s right now and you keep this up until retirement, we're talking over $400,000. $400,000 from not buying coffee. That's what opportunity cost actually means. It's not just the $5 you spent today. It's the $5 plus all the money that $5 could have earned if you'd invested it instead. That's the real cost, and nobody thinks about it this way. The $1,800 coffee. Now let's go back to that single cup of coffee you bought this morning. The one that cost $5. If you're 25 years old right now and you invest that $5 instead, and it compounds at 10% annually until you're 65, that single $5 bill turns into about $226. But wait, we're not done. Because it's not just one coffee, is it? Let's say you buy coffee 3 times this week. That's $15 total. If you're 25 and you invest that $15, by the time you're 65, that's nearly $680. But let's take this to the real scenario. Let's say this week, like most weeks, you buy coffee Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. $25 total. And let's say you're 30 years old. If you invest that $25 right now and let it sit until you're 65, that's 35 years of compounding. At 10% average annual returns, that $25 becomes about $700. But it's not just this week. You do this every week. So we're not talking about a one-time $25 investment. We're talking about $25 per week, every single week for 35 years. Run that through a compound interest calculator, and here's what you get. Over $400,000. So when I say that $5 coffee actually costs you $1,800, I'm being conservative. I'm talking about the opportunity cost of 1 week of coffee over a 30-year period. That single week of $5 lattes, $25 total, costs you nearly $1,800 in future wealth if you're in your 30s right now. That's the number nobody tells you. That's the cost that doesn't show up on your credit card statement. Two people, one decision. Let me show you how this plays out in real life with two people. We'll call them Sarah and Michael. Both are 27 years old. Both make $70,000 a year. Both live in the same city, work in the same industry. On paper, they're identical financially. Sarah buys coffee every morning. $5. She gets lunch out most days. $12 on average. She's got all the streaming services because, different shows on different platforms. She finances a nice car because she spends a lot of time commuting and she wants to be comfortable. Total monthly spending on these categories? About $1,250. Michael makes coffee at home. Takes him 7 minutes, brings lunch 4 days a week, goes out on Fridays with coworkers, keeps 2 streaming services, rotates them every few months to catch different shows, drives a 7-year-old Honda Civic he bought with cash for $8,000. His monthly spending on the same categories? About $320. The difference is $930 per month. Now here's where it gets interesting. Michael invests that difference. Every single month, $930 goes into a boring index fund. Fast forward 35 years. They're both 62, thinking about retirement. Sarah has been living pretty comfortably this whole time. Nice daily coffees, good lunches, always had a newer car. But her investment account, even though she was contributing to her 401k, has about $680,000. That's not bad. She did okay. Michael's account, over $2.1 million. Same starting salary, same city, same life circumstances. The only difference was daily coffee, lunch habits, subscription awareness, and car choices. That difference is $1.4 million. Here's the brutal part. At a 4% safe withdrawal rate in retirement, Sarah can pull about $27,000 per year from her portfolio. Michael can pull $84,000. Sarah's going to have to be really careful in retirement. She's going to have to budget, watch her spending, maybe pick up part-time work if something unexpected happens. Michael's going to live better in retirement than Sarah lived during her working years, and he's going to do it without working. That's opportunity cost. That's what we're actually talking about here. Not whether you can afford $5 today. Whether you can afford to give up $1.4 million over your lifetime. It's not just coffee. Now here's where people usually get defensive. David, are you seriously telling me I can never buy coffee? That's miserable. What's the point of making money if I can't enjoy it? And look, I get it. I'm not saying never buy coffee. I'm saying understand the trade-off. Because here's the thing, it's not just coffee. Let's talk about lunch. You work in an office, you go out to lunch every day. 10 to 15 bucks. Let's call it $12 on average. 5 days a week, that's 60 bucks. Over a year, that's over $3,000. Invested over 30 years at 10%, that's nearly $1 million. $1 million. That's the opportunity cost of buying lunch instead of packing it. Or let's talk subscriptions. Netflix, Spotify, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Amazon Prime, your gym membership you don't use, that meditation app you opened twice. Let's say you're spending $150 a month on subscriptions. A lot of people are spending way more than that. But let's be conservative. $150 a month is $1,800 a year. Over 30 years, invested at 10%, that's over $330,000. A third of $1 million. Gone. Because you needed to watch every streaming platform at the same time. How about your car? The average new car payment in 2025 is over $730 per month. Let's say you keep that payment for 6 years, which is the average loan term now. That's about $52,000 spent on car payments. But here's the kicker. After those 6 years, what do most people do? They trade it in and start another payment. So you're not just spending $730 a month for 6 years, you're spending it for life. If instead of having a $730 car payment, you bought used cars in cash and invested that $730 every single month, after 30 years you'd have over $1.6 million. $1.6 million. That's what your car payment is actually costing you. The psychology of it's only. Here's why this is so dangerous. Every single one of these purchases feels insignificant in the moment. It's only $5. It's only 12 bucks. It's only $150 a month. That phrase, it's only, is probably the most expensive phrase in the English language. Because your brain is wired to evaluate costs in isolation. You're not thinking about compounding. You're not thinking about opportunity cost. You're thinking, can I afford $5 right now? And the answer is almost always yes. $5 won't make or break you today. So you spend it, but wealth isn't built in a day. It's built over decades. And the difference between someone who retires with $2 million and someone who retires broke isn't that one person made dramatically more money. It's that one person understood opportunity cost and the other one didn't. There's a concept in behavioral economics called hyperbolic discounting. It basically means humans are really, really bad at valuing future rewards. We massively prefer immediate gratification over delayed gratification, even when the delayed reward is objectively way better. You'd rather have $5 a coffee right now than $226 in 40 years, even though $226 is obviously more valuable. Your brain doesn't process it that way. The coffee is tangible. It's here. It's warm. It smells good. The $226 is abstract. It's decades away. It doesn't feel real, and that's how companies get you. They price things just low enough that it doesn't trigger your mental alarm bells. $5? That's nothing. $12? Whatever. $150 a month? I can afford that. But you're not evaluating the real cost. You're evaluating the immediate cost, and those are two completely different numbers. Now you might be thinking, okay, David, but if I follow this logic to its conclusion, I should never spend money on anything enjoyable ever. I should live in a cave and eat rice and beans for 40 years so I can retire rich. That's insane, and you're right, that is insane. I'm not saying that. Here's the actual takeaway. Spend intentionally. Understand the trade-off. If you genuinely love your morning coffee, if it brings you real joy, if it's a ritual that makes your life better, then buy the coffee. I'm serious. Buy it and enjoy it, and don't feel guilty. But if you're buying it out of habit, if you're buying it because you're tired and you didn't plan ahead, if you're buying it because everyone else in the office does and you don't want to feel left out, that's different. That's unconscious spending. And unconscious spending is what destroys wealth. The goal isn't to never spend money. The goal is to spend money on things that actually matter to you and cut everything else. Because here's the reality. You can't optimize everything. You can't cut every single expense. You'd lose your mind. But you also can't spend unconsciously on everything and expect to build wealth. You have to choose. Maybe coffee is your thing. Great. Buy the coffee, but then pack your lunch. Or cancel 3 of your streaming services. Or drive your car for 10 years instead of 6. Find the areas where you're spending unconsciously and redirect that money toward things you actually care about or toward building wealth. Here's what nobody tells you. The reason most people never build significant wealth isn't because they don't make enough money. It's because of lifestyle creep and unconscious spending on things that don't matter. According to the Federal Reserve's 2023 survey of consumer finances, the median net worth for American households under 35 is about $39,000. That includes everything. Home equity, retirement accounts, savings, all of it. Think about that. The median person in their 20s and early 30s has less than $40,000 in total net worth. Meanwhile, they're spending $1,300 a year on coffee, $3,000 on lunches, $1,800 on subscriptions, and $8,700 on car payments. That's over $15,000 per year on just those 4 categories. And we haven't even talked about rent, student loans, insurance, groceries, or any of the actual big expenses. If the median person redirected even half of that unconscious spending, just half, into investments, they'd retire with an extra $1 million. Literally. Run the numbers. $7,500 per year invested at 10% for 35 years is over $1.4 million. The difference between retiring broke and retiring a millionaire isn't a 6-figure salary or some genius investment strategy. It's understanding opportunity cost and making intentional decisions. The bigger picture. Let me give you one more example that ties this all together. Let's say you're 28 years old. You make $65,000 a year. Pretty solid income. You're not rich, but you're doing okay. Now let's say every month you spend $100 on coffee and drinks, $250 on eating out, $150 on subscriptions, $730 on a car payment. That's $1,230 per month. Almost $15,000 a year. Now here's the question. What if you cut that in half? Not eliminated? Cut in half. You make coffee at home most days, but still buy it occasionally. You meal prep lunches, but still go out sometimes. You keep 2 streaming services instead of 7. You drive a used car you bought in cash instead of financing new. You've just freed up $615 per month. That's $7,380 per year. Invest that every year from age 28 to 65, and at 10% returns, you retire with $1.46 million. $1.46 million. For making your coffee at home and packing a lunch. That's not a typo. That's compound interest. That's opportunity cost. That's what happens when you redirect unconscious spending toward wealth building. Look, here's the bottom line. Nobody's going to knock on your door and explain this to you. Your employer's not going to sit you down and teach you about opportunity cost. The companies selling you coffee and cars and subscriptions definitely aren't going to tell you. You have to figure it out yourself. And most people never do. They spend their entire lives wondering why they can't get ahead, why their friends seem to be doing better, why they're still stressed about money even though they make decent income. And the answer is right here. It's the $5 coffee, it's the $12 lunch, it's the subscriptions you forgot you had, it's the car payment that never ends. Every single one of those purchases is stealing your future wealth. Not because the purchase itself is bad, but because you're not thinking about the trade-off. You're not asking, is this worth $226 in 40 years? Is this worth $1,800? Is this worth $500,000? Once you start asking that question, everything changes. You don't feel deprived, you feel empowered. Because you're making conscious choices. You're deciding what actually matters. Maybe coffee is worth it to you. Cool. Spend the money. But then you're going to be ruthless about cutting something else. Because you can't have everything. Nobody can. The people who build wealth just figured out earlier than everyone else which things actually matter. So here's my challenge for you. For the next 30 days, track every single dollar you spend. I mean everything. Coffee, lunch, subscriptions, impulse purchases, all of it. At the end of the month, look at that list and ask yourself, which of these things actually made my life better? And which of these did I buy out of habit or convenience or because I wasn't paying attention? Then take the stuff that didn't matter, add it up, and run it through a compound interest calculator. See what that money would be worth in 30 years if you invested it instead. I'm willing to bet the number is going to shock you. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every time you go to buy something unconsciously, you'll think about the real cost, not the $5, the $1,800. That awareness is the difference between spending your whole life broke and retiring a millionaire. It's not glamorous, it's not sexy, but it works. The math doesn't lie. The only question is whether you're willing to pay attention to it. If this video changed the way you think about spending, smash that like button and drop a comment letting me know what expense you're going to cut this month. And if you haven't already, subscribe to David Capital because we're breaking down the financial truths nobody else is talking about. I'll see you in the next one.